All right, so as promised, I'm going to go ahead and start diving into my training, the reasonings behind it. So if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to drop those below and I'll be more than happy to engage with you guys. Obviously, I love to pay my experiences forward and to help people, but at the same time, if we're engaging in conversation, if it's a healthy conversation, there's room for me to learn as well. Whether I'm learning as an athlete or I'm learning as a coach, I do appreciate, good, healthy conversation. So hopefully you guys have a little bit of patience and perseverance, because this video could get a little bit lengthy as I dive into a lot of the context around my training. I think it's important that we try to learn about bodybuilding as much as possible. Of course, that helps to better our game, but I think it's important not just to turn to the bodybuilding community to learn about bodybuilding, but also to look at other sports to better your bodybuilding. And if we look at a lot of the major sports, they do a really good job at load management, meaning they're ensuring that performing at their best, and they do make recovery an equal part of that process. And I think that's where bodybuilders kind of go wrong at times. We get into that more is better mentality. So, we think training more days out of the week is going to be better. We think doing more sets is going to be better. Maybe we're in a hurry to lift, more and more weight. That, in a sense, can overload us. It gets us into hot water at times. And that's where, aches and pains start to develop, possibly injury, or just, overall feeling run down and fatigued. And not to mention, sometimes if we're doing too much, it takes a lot more time. And, when you're in the gym for a long period of time, especially if it's day after day after day, that can impact maybe, home life a little bit. I know that doesn't get talked about too often out there, but that is a reality. So it's important for me heading into this prep that I have a well-rounded setup where it's going to maximize my performance, especially diving into a deficit. And it's also going to allow me to be the dad and husband that I need to be. So, in a sense, not, training so much to where it's just running me down and taking up far too much time from the people around me. So with that in mind, I love looking at other sports to learn about, load management. If we look at Major League Baseball pitchers, a starting pitcher isn't going to pitch, every single day. They're in a rotation. They pitch every 4, 5, 6 days or what have you. And usually, baseball managers will keep track of their pitch count, because if they start going over a certain number, they start to lose velocity, they start to lose control in their pitches. And not to mention that it's harder for them to recover. So, they're thinking about the next time that pitcher gets on the mound. Like, they want to make sure that they're going to be performing at their best. So it's not just about what they're doing in the moment. It's also thinking about, the performance as they move ahead. So they're strategic when it comes to how much work they do and how much recovery they do. So there's something to really learn, again, by looking at other sports. Same thing with NFL football. Practice during the week. They're not going to practice in full gear every single time they're practicing and smashing each other, because by the time they get to the game on Sunday, they're going to be pretty beat up. So there's strategic practices during the week so they can maximize their performance on Sunday. And I've listened to interviews with head coaches and with players. They come off a Sunday game and they got to do a quick turnaround and play that Thursday night game that is on Amazon. A lot of times they're complaining about that because it's just not enough time to get their body right, get their mind right to perform at a high level again with that quick turnaround. So again, a lot to be learned there. As a bodybuilder, looking at other sports as far as how they're, doing load management. With that in mind, and also looking at my past history, I know when I train more than 2 days in a row, I just don't have the same output. And what I plan on doing with this prep is actually training every other day. So I'm only going to be training 3 days per week. Chances are it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So I'll have Tuesday, Thursdays off for recovery. I'll have the weekend off for recovery. And also, not to mention, it frees my time up for the more important things in life. Like my son has karate on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I like to take him to those sessions because I love watching him do his thing. So I want to be present for him there. And then the weekend, it's usually more family time on the weekends. So training 3 days per week, it's going to be a nice balance. Like every time I go into the gym, chances are I'm going to feel fresh. Coming off of a rest day or coming off of 2 rest days, I'm going to feel ready to go. And the chances of me performing well, it's going to be likely. Like my ability to, lift heavier, my ability to do more reps, it's going to be there. And, that's what I want, over the course of this prep is to maximize my overall performance. My high priority isn't to do more training days or to do more set volume because, I have some fear that I'm going to lose muscle mass if I'm not doing more work. I don't care about doing more work. I care about being very efficient with the work that I'm doing, meaning I'm able to maximize, everything that I'm doing. I don't need to, again, be excessive with the training volume. I think when it comes to training volume, because that's a question that often gets asked, is like, how much volume should we be doing? And really the answer is what you're capable of recovering from. And that's going to look different, person to person. It's also going to look different within a person depending on the context at hand. Like for me personally, going into a deficit now with the prep in January, chances are I'm not going to feel the prep too much in the first month or so, but eventually as my body weight comes down, potentially as calories come down, potentially as step count elevates, the overall demand will kind of creep up. It wouldn't surprise me at all, if right now on average, I'm kind of hitting around 3 sets per exercise, that I'm toning the sets down to 2. And again, that's just so I can recover. So as long as those 2 sets, have plenty of intention behind it, and I love to train, from a principle standpoint. I kind of just say to myself, okay, here's my rep range. And based on the rep range, if I have my reps in reserve appropriate to the proximity to failure I need to be at, then I'm going to get a stimulus. Like I'm going to engage plenty of muscle fiber, and I'm kind of telling my muscle like, hey, I'm still lifting with intent here. It's still hard. It's challenging you. I need you to stick around for the next session. And as long as I'm backing that up with plenty of recovery and my nutrition is in order, probably most importantly, the rate of loss isn't excessive as far as, body fat loss. Like if I'm losing 0.5 to 1% of my body weight per week, if I'm in that realm, again, muscle isn't really going to go anywhere. The name of the game for me is keeping myself in one piece and maintaining muscle mass. And, I think it's been shown that when we're prepping, we don't need to do as much volume, to maintain muscle mass as, what we need to do in the off season to, let's say, build muscle. So we can get away with doing a little bit less, but there still needs to be intention. There still needs to be effort there. And again, we do need to be able to recover. So that's what it's all about for me. It's about load management, really, in a sense, just like all those other major sports out there. But that's kind of my training from more of a big picture perspective, but I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will try to talk again next week, if not the following week, just because it will be the holiday season.